This is a $100 angle grinder, and this is a $5 file. Both of these could be used to sharpen your lawnmower blades, but in this video, we're not going to be using any fancy power tool. No bench vices, no blade balancers, and no angle grinders. Let's get into it. The most important thing for a healthy lawn is to mow it and mow it often. But no matter how often you mow your lawn, if you're doing it with a dull blade, you're probably doing more harm than good. And as a general rule of thumb, you want to sharpen your mower blades at least 2 to 3 times throughout the growing season. This is an angle grinder, and it does a fantastic job at sharpening mower blades. But with that being said, it's not for everybody. Not everybody likes to use power tools, and frankly shouldn't be using power tools, like my wife, for example. And using one of these requires a little bit of skill and finesse to properly sharpen the blade. And if you're not used to handling a machine like this, you could potentially cause damage to the blade and yourself if you're not careful. But with that being said, this is hands down the fastest and most convenient way to sharpen your blade. And if you're someone that doesn't want to use any power tools, you're in luck, because I'm going to show you guys how to do it with the cheapest tools possible. In order to sharpen our blades, we're going to need a few tools. And the first thing is this $5 file off of Amazon. And this file is specifically labeled to sharpen lawnmower blades. And the second thing is a vise or a pair of clamps. Now, me personally, I do prefer to use the vise, but for the sake of this video, we're not going to be using the vise today at all. And we're going to be using a pair of clamps, because I want to show you guys that don't have a vise that it is possible to do it without it. And the third thing is a ratchet. And the last thing is a pair of safety gloves. The first thing you need to do if you have a gas mower is turn off the gas shutoff valve, and then start up your mower and run it until the gas has ran out of the carburetor. And the next thing is you want to take off the spark plug. Now this could prevent some possible accidents from happening, and it's better to be safe than sorry when you're working on your own equipment. And if you have a battery mower, all you have to do is remove the batteries before we begin. So now we're going to take off the blades. You can see here that I'm using this broomstick to act as a stopper. So all we're going to do is use this ratchet here to take off our blade. Now a little trick I like to use when taking off the clamp and the nut to this blade, I like to lay it on the grass exactly as it was on the blade, because there's multiple parts here, and if you mix it up, then it can be kind of confusing when you're reattaching the blade. Now this blade is coming off a fairly new mower, and you're probably looking at it like, George, come on, that's already sharp. But what I find is when you buy new mowers or you buy new blades from the store, very rarely are they sharp enough to give you a really nice clean cut on your grass. So since we're not going to be using any type of vise, what we want to do is take the blade and just hang it right over the edge before we clamp it down. Now a very important part is when you clamp down the blade, you want to make sure you clamp it down in an area that's flat. We don't want to bend the blade or, change the shape of it whatsoever. And you'd be surprised at how much force that these clamps could put down on a table. You could see here that I'm shaking the blade and it is not budging at all. So I'm going to show you another trick, and all we're going to need is a thick Sharpie marker. If you never edged a blade with a file before, or even with an angle grinder, then sometimes it can be kind of hard to get the technique down where you're edging right against the blade edge. So what I like to do is take this Sharpie marker and fill out the whole edge of the blade and make it completely black. And by filling this in a black color, it'll show us exactly where we're filing to make sure that we're not taking too much of the tip of the blade off. So this is the file we're going to use today. This is an 8-inch rotary mower file that you could buy on Amazon. It's about $5 or $6. Now if you never filed a blade before, the name of the game is slow and steady. We want the file to do most of the work. We don't want to use our muscles to try to grind the blade away. Now if you notice here, I'm going in a downstroke down towards the edge of the blade. So I've been filing this blade now for a little bit less than 5 minutes, and we could see that the Sharpie marker is almost already gone, and we could see down to the bare steel now. So we're going to grab a piece of paper now to see how well the blade is cutting. Now the key thing to remember here is that the blade doesn't have to cut it like a razor. We just want to make sure that it's cutting the paper fairly clean. So now we're going to take off the clamps, and we're just going to reverse the blade so we could do the other side. So the next thing we want to do is make sure that our blades are balanced, because if we grind it off a little bit too much from one side and then we put it on the mower, it can cause excessive vibration. So there's a lot of fancy blade balancers that you can get on Amazon. They're actually not that much money. They're only about $8. But if you guys don't feel like spending money on one of those, I'm going to show you guys a simple trick. All you're going to need is a nail and a hammer. And all we're going to do is hammer this nail into the wall halfway. And all we need to do is take our blade and hang it right onto the middle of the nail. Now, if one side is drooping more than the other, all you're going to want to do is take the heavy side and file it down just a little bit more, and that should even out your blades to make it even. Now, if you guys don't feel like nailing a nail in the wall and you do have one of these bench vices. All you need to do is take a screwdriver, put it into the vise horizontally. Then we're going to take our blade and just balance it right onto the screwdriver. And just as an added bonus tip, and this is completely optional, but when I reattach my blades to my mower, I like to do it with a torque wrench. Now, most mowers require between 30 and 50 foot-pounds of torque to reattach them safely onto the mower. And how this wrench works is you set how many foot-pounds of torque you want it to be, and once you tighten it up, it'll click right when it's at that specific torque. So I'll show you right now. Yeah, you hear that clicking right there? That means that it's exactly torque to spec. Now, the reason I like to do this is because it just gives me peace of mind. And if you guys learned something new in this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you guys are brand new to lawn care, my name is George. Nice to meet you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more lawn care content. And with that, this is George from Princess Cut. Peace.